Hello once again, it's Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things. Today we're going to take a look at how you can use trash that would normally end up in your local landfill for something useful for your camping, hiking, backpacking, or other outdoor adventures. So stay tuned, we're going to have some fun. So let's take a look at some of the things you might be able to use and repurpose toward waterproof packaging for some of your necessities on the trail. Here we have a tortilla chip bag, empty. I wouldn't do that over my kitchen floor if it weren't empty, believe me. Popular brand, don't care what brand it is. The idea is that it's waterproof, it's foil lined on the inside, nice and crinkly plastic on the outside. So what we're going to do first is wash it out with soap and water and let it dry so that the inside is free of all the oils and salts that you might expect there to be in a tortilla chip bag. So let's do that first, okay? Alright, so we've got some hot water running in the sink. Here's our bag. We'll go ahead and put some hot water in there. Dishwashing detergent. A little spritz of that in there. And we'll shake it up. That's fine. Dump that out. Give it a good rinse. I'll try to get as much of the soap out of there as possible. Use the sprayer down in there a little better. Hopefully we have a bag that's free of salt and free of oil. And we're going to go set that outside in the sun and let it dry. Okay, got a nice bucket here. Just going to try and open up the bag as much as I can to let air circulation in there. And that bucket will hold it upright. Wind will blow across the top of that bag and dry air will go down inside of there in probably 15-20 minutes at the max. That should be nice and dry, and we'll go from there. So while we're waiting for that corn chip bag to dry, I thought I might demonstrate to you how handy it is to seal things up against the air, the elements, and forces of nature that might tend to degrade them. So let's take a look at a project that I sealed up over 2 years ago, going on 3 years ago. And I'll demonstrate for you why it's a good idea if you plan on hiking or backpacking, trekking into the wilderness, and you have things that are vulnerable to the weather and exposure to the air, why you might want to seal them up if you can. So let's take a look at this. Okay, here we have a Zippo Lighter. It's an OD green one I've had for maybe 10 years or so. Pretty handy for camping. So what I did was I sealed this up in a freezer bag. These are made for vacuum sealing food and putting it in the freezer for long-term storage. I didn't vacuum seal it, but I did fill the lighter with fluid, and then I made 4 seals all the way around, and so it in effect is in its own environment, and it's been in there for 3 years almost undisturbed. So what I'm going to do now is open it and see if it still lights. Now anybody who knows about Zippo lighters is that the fuel tends to evaporate fairly quickly, especially if you carry them around in your pocket. There's no way in the world that a Zippo lighter filled 3 years ago and left exposed to being on a shelf or in your pocket without being refueled would light. This one, however, I predict will. So we're going to cut it open. And inside that envelope it smells a lot like lighter fluid. There we go. The reason why it took a long time to light was because the wick was actually really wet and had to dry out a little bit in order for the sparks to get the fumes. So there you have a Zippo lighter, 2 years and at least 6 months in storage inside an airtight non-vacuum pouch. and it's good to go. The wick is still way too wet. I filled it really full when I stuck it in that bag. In fact, there was so much fuel in it that inside the bag it smelled a lot like lighter fluid, and there was some condensation on the outside of the lighter, so it's just packed full of fuel. You can probably tell by that flame. Good as new. I'll make another packet and put it back in there and stick it into one of my kits. Okay, now the bags that I put outside are still drying. What I'm going to do is prepare a small pouch for that lighter and seal it back up in there. So what we have here is just a roll of food saver bags. They're made to go in the freezer. And I'm going to cut a small portion of one out off the roll. Like so. And that'll do it. So now, here we have the lighter. This is essentially right now just a tube. Just want to position the lighter in there and make sure that there's adequate room to seal it, top and bottom, and like so. And we'll have another pouch for it. So once again, you can see it's pretty full. I'm not going to bother to refill it. Okay, this is my sealer. So what I'm going to do is put one edge of the bag in there. The element goes in that little track right there, so you want the edge of the bag to go a little bit above that. Press it down, latch the edges, and I'm going to push the seal button. I have it set on extended. It's going to make a really raucous noise here in a second. I'll probably edit that out. And when the green light comes on, then it supposedly is sealed. I tend to double seal these, so I'm going to seal it again just a little bit above that last line. Just because I think double sealing is handy. Okay. So I have essentially two lines of sealing there. They pretty much overlap, but there are two. So now what I want to do, since we have a seal on the bottom, and up there we only need one more. So let's cut it again right here. And once again I'm going to hit that button twice to make sure that it's nice and sealed, because that's thick material. Sometimes with thinner material it'll burn right through it and you end up with having to start over on your project. Alright, so there we have a double seal. It's pretty hot still. And I can slide that lighter down in there. What do you want, Tommy? And all I have to do is leave enough room for it to compress a little. Wow. And then we'll double seal it again. The snaps didn't release that time. Let's take a look. It looks like a good seal. I'm going to go ahead and repeat it though. Looks like maybe, let's do that one more time. There we go. Sealed up. I can take this out of here 3 years from now and light it, and it'll light just like it did today. Full of fuel, and it's airtight. There is a little bit of air inside of there, but not nearly enough to evaporate that full lighter full of fluid. So we have a good waterproof, airproof, evaporation-proof package for a Zippo lighter that will last indefinitely. One thing I didn't do, and I probably should have, is put a label on there showing what day I packed that. So what I've done is make a stick-on label with my labeler, and I'm going to put that on there. It has today's date on it. And that way, a couple years down the line, if that much time goes by, I'll know when it was that I packed this. I happen to know it was November of nearly 3 years ago when I packed it before, because it was right around Thanksgiving. But anyway, there we go. It's got a nice label on it. June 3rd, 2017. A couple of years from now, if I happen to pull this out and need to start a fire, I'm confident already that it'll start a fire, but I'll know what date it was that I packed it. While we're on the topic of repurposing things today, I have a cat food bag here. So I thought, you know, this bag is waterproof. I could seal something up in that and keep it dry, but guess what? It's also gusseted. It stands up by itself. So a little while ago I performed a test on it to see how much water I could easily fit in there. And it'll hold a gallon up to about here. Problem is, when it has a gallon in it, it won't stand up. So I poured some water out of it, and it turns out that it'll hold approximately a half a gallon or 2 liters of water and stand up on its own. So we're going to demonstrate that real quick while those foil bags are still outside drying. And just in case it happens to tip over, I'm going to put it inside this basin. Alright, so we'll put in 2 cups at a time. So here's 2. I already know the bag doesn't leak, I just don't want to fumble it and have it fall over all over everything. Okay, there's 4 cups. 6 and 8 coming up. Okay, 8 cups of water. Now, demonstrate it's not leaking, and it will stand up by itself. So, provided that you have a flat surface to stand it on, such as this stove top, plank of wood, a flat rock, you could conceivably put 2 liters of water in there from an unknown quality water source, filtered or otherwise, and then pop in your sterilization tablets, half a gallon of water, and as an extra added attraction, you can fold the top over and then put a metal binder clip on there, or a paper clip or something else to hold it shut, just for convenience. So, I am not going to use that bag to seal up anything and make it airtight. I'm going to put it away in one of my kits for a water bag because, again, it's gusseted, it'll stand up, and I know it'll stand up with a half a gallon of water in it. So there's another item repurposed. We brought the bags in, the sun took care of drying them out very nicely, and now let's take a look at the kinds of things we may want to place inside the bags to keep them safe from moisture. Alright, what can we pack inside of there? It looks like it will hold a fair amount. How about a hat? Everybody likes to have a dry hat. Okay, that goes in there pretty well. Extra pair of wool socks. Not a bad idea. Cell phone. Put that in there. Extra pair of gloves. MP3 player. Cables, alright. We'll keep those dry if we can. And how about a power bank? This one happens to be a 30,000 milliamp hour power bank. Charge it up, and it's good for charging my cell phone up probably 4 or 5 times. And it also has a pretty nice light on the end of it. Certainly don't want that to get wet. So we stuffed a fair amount of equipment and necessities inside that bag, and we want to keep all that stuff dry. So now let's seal it up and see how that works. We're going to place the seam of the bag here. And again, we're going to leave some room to make sure the seal is nice and tight. I'm not going to vacuum seal this one, I'm just going to seal it like we did before. So that's one seal. You can see right here it is. And I like to do two. So we'll line that up with the filament line there. Close it. Lock it. And hit the button again. And there we have it. As soon as this will release. So we have two seal lines on there. And this bag is waterproof. And everything in there will stay nice and dry. All the electronics, all the extra clothing, socks, the hats, gloves, everything. This can be splashed with water, probably even submerged. It should float because it's got plenty of air in it. And there we have used a piece of trash to package some of our valuable camping gear against rain and moisture. How's that for a life hack? Well, I hope you learned something today. It took us a while to figure those things out, but we're all about repurposing trash and keeping it out of the landfill if it's possible. That's not to say we never throw anything away, but if it's useful for something else, we're usually all about doing that. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things. And we look forward to seeing you again real soon. Have a great weekend.